What's up, everybody? Welcome into the YouTube live show tonight. I am John Kurtz, and listen, I have to admit a couple of things up front to you here. One is I try very hard to not be too over the top in my fandom sometimes because I know how annoying that could be for some folks here. But listen, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, so I feel like I had to hit you with the Mahomes jersey. I don't even ever really wear this thing. That's the other thing I wanted to say. I'm not a big believer in grown men wearing jerseys, and I know that can be a controversial topic here, especially when I'm talking to a lot of sports fans. But like, I am not jersey guy. I don't wear it hardly at all. I didn't even wear it last night, but I felt like today I got to bust something out. I'd already been wearing the heck out of my Patrick is my homie t-shirt, which is my main go-to Chiefs gear, the lucky Chiefs gear that I wore last night during the Super Bowl. So I had to bust out the jersey here today. Also, I'm realizing as I start this, I didn't get my freaking ring light on. So I'm sure this looks a little bit darker. I hope that's still okay. I would go grab it, but it would take me a solid minute to go get it. So as long as everybody's okay with that, without having quite the crisp light here, then we can roll forward. Also, the audio may sound a little bit more hollow because I'm moving a bunch of stuff around in this room and it's pretty empty right now. So my apologies for all that going on. But man, we've got some juicy content to talk about here. And I'm not just mentioning that because of the Super Bowl. And believe you me, I could sit here and talk Super Bowl with you guys all day. By the way, won by the Big 12's finest, greatest football player ever to come from the Big 12, Patrick LeVon Mahomes. Do not doubt that man. Look at what he did on one freaking leg last night. Yeah, I see Jordan Mia. I see ring light. All right, we got to complain about the ring light in the comments. I'll go get the ring light. Forgot it, guys. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Just for you, Jordan and Mia. Just for you. Got the ring light going here. Hope that appeases everybody, makes everybody happy. Boy, like doing this, enjoy it. But the second that something slips, man, boy, people are all over it to let you know about it. Anyway, yes, Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl. Phenomenal publicity for the Big 12, continuing to have the greatest player in NFL history playing for them. But the Pac-12 released a statement today, presumably from all the university leadership, like presidents, etc., on this thing, and it is potentially like an entire show sort of a topic. It is, boy, it is a doozy. It is the exact type of statement that you release when you don't feel very confident in what is going on and what you're doing. Like that was my takeaway from this. Like, this is the type of statement that you release when you know that you're in deep, you know what. What it amounts to is basically the same vote of confidence statement that we see all the time from athletic directors with a coach. And typically it's the kiss of death, right? If you get that, that's why it's called the dreaded vote of confidence. If you get the dreaded vote of confidence, it generally means you're not going to last very much longer. And that is what the Pac-12 put out today, out of nowhere. Man, this statement, I'm going to read it to you once here, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into it, because I'm going to give you like the Wilner and Canzano reaction to it. And these guys are kind of running out of space and running out of defenses, and both, I think, growing impatient and just wanting a deal to get done, which I'm sure everybody on the Pac-12 side is. But here's a statement that was released on social media today. It says, quote, "The 10 Pac-12 universities look forward to consummating successful media rights deals in the very near future. Based upon positive conversations with multiple potential media rights partners over the past few weeks, we remain highly confident in our future growth and success as a conference, and united in our commitment to one another." Boy. I mean, that is, first of all, lots of very interesting things there. One, the use of consummate. It's not typically the context that I think of the term consummate being used in. Feels a little dangerous there, Pac-12, but hey, all right, I mean, maybe they're trying to be younger, hipper, cooler too, like the Big 12. Also, just lots of posturing here within this statement, like very near future, consummating successful media rights deals, positive conversations with multiple potential media rights partners, highly confident, united in our commitment to one another. Yeah, it's not something that reeks of a conference that feels good about where they're at and going in a successful direction. I will just put it that way. So we'll give you the reaction. Like I thought when I saw this, I was like, okay, Canzano and Wilner for the last week have kind of just avoided talking about some of the reports that have come out and the fact that Stuart Mandel was a guy, a Pac-12 guy, or at least a Pac-12 based, a kind of Pac-12 friendly guy reporting from athletic directors within the conference that there was legitimate consternation about the fact that there's not a deal done yet. Those stories had not really been touched by Wilner or Canzano. They had not done much with it. This, I was like, all right, this is going to force them now to have some sort of reaction because it's an official statement from the Pac-12. They will operate on that. They have, in a way, I guess I will give them credit for staying out of the kind of more speculative sort of game. It's not really what they've done, which I understand, particularly from Wilner, being a guy who's, more straight and narrow reporter. He's not going to deal in, but I mean, what Mandel was doing was reporting. What I'm trying to say is it seems like typically they're kind of covering for the Pac-12 and they're not getting into a lot of the speculative sort of thing here. And they passed on it once again until now. And we'll read you the stories. Wilner basically put out a story that was just like, hey, this is what happened. Here's a timeline of events and nothing else. I was surprised. It was not even like a mounted defense here and trying to jump on board with this. Canzano, as he typically is, was a little more Pac-12 homerish with it, but we're going to read it all, and that's going to formulate a lot of the chat here tonight. If we have time, I would like to get into as well some comments from Barry Switzer about Oklahoma's transition to the SEC that I think would surprise a lot of people. OU may need to get their house in order. Barry Switzer out here kind of doubting the Sooners as they head into a new era in the SEC. But if we don't get to that, I'll do a separate video on that. I think that's juicy enough to get some content out there no matter what. So anyway, that's what we have lined up on the show. But of course, you guys know you can dictate the content as well yourself. All you have to do in order to do that is click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you donate, and it'll get your question or comment up to the top for me. It'll pin it to the top of the chat. Make sure that it gets read. Over 150 people here in the chat right now. I can't keep up with everything that's going on there, but all you got to do, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. It will pin your question or comment up to the top for me, and make sure that it makes it on the chat here tonight. Also, as a way to support the work I'm doing, bringing you Big 12 content week in, week out here on the channel. So I much appreciate all of you guys who support. I could not do it without you. And if you would also be so kind as to give me one click, it's totally free. If you can just like the video, that helps me out as well with the YouTube algorithm. And if you're catching this after the fact, make sure and leave a comment on the video as well. Even if it's you telling me that you hate me, if it's you angry, you're an Eagles fan and you're angry that I'm sitting here wearing the jersey of the greatest human being to ever play the game of American football, you can leave that in a comment as well. It all helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. So very much appreciated those of you who do that. Hit me up on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you'd like to donate as well and you're catching this after the fact. And I think that's basically all the housekeeping that I need to do here before we hop into some donations that I see already. Getting lots of compliments as well on the Mahomes jersey here, which is great. Okay, Juan, what's up, Juan? Good to see you, Juan. I feel like it's been a minute. Really glad to see you here. Thank you for your support, first of all, my friend. Juan says, what's up, John? Here's to Pac-12 chaos and little cheers with some Go Cougs. Yeah, I mean, it already felt like we were getting into chaos sort of range with the Pac-12, and this statement today, I feel like just spiced it up even more. And that may be one of the bigger overarching points here to make. This is not being received well. If you just now, I understand Twitter is Twitter and everybody kind of just hates on everything like it's a job on Twitter. I do get that. But go look at how this thing is being received. And the only way you could really take it is that this is kind of a panicky move by the Pac 12. They understand that everybody thinks they're in a lot of trouble. They read the report from an athletic director that was quoted by Stuart Mandel in that story, from a reporter that's been very friendly to the Pac 12. They now have athletic directors leaking their frustration with the situation. So they clearly felt a need. They felt the pressure. They felt a need to put something out there. But this is where, like, Yormark, I think, has done a masterful job for the Big 12 of finding spots to pick and choose on Twitter, to drop in little facts, little nuggets. They had a dig at Feinbaum when he said nobody was going to watch the Big 12 championship game, for instance. He's found the correct spots to go in and do that and kind of needle at people and try to control the narrative. This is not how you do it. I mean, as a PR professional as well, now in my day job, I would love to hear what the internal conversations were like with a PR person about the putting out a statement like this. Even if you are pretty unified, if you truly believe that, which I mean, I'm having a hard time legitimately believing that at this point about the Pac-12, but if you are, you don't need to say it. Like, this is one of those things, like, it is just obvious. You don't have to say it if it is actually true. There are a lot of things like this. And, like, look at Patrick Mahomes. He would never sit there in front of a microphone and tell you, like, I'm the best quarterback in the league right now. That's not him. He doesn't need to say that because he knows that you know it. He knows that you know it. He does not need to say that. The Pac-12 coming out here and be like, hey, look, we're unified and we're going to get a great TV deal. That's you saying it out of insecurity because it's not actually true. If that were actually true, the Pac-12 would not need to be coming out with a statement like this. And that, to me, is really the bottom line of all of this. It's just such a poor PR plot move. I mean, I don't understand what you gain from it. I would guess that the main reason this happened is because of the Mandel story and the fact that you now, it looks apparent that you have an athletic director that's going rogue a little bit. And so you want to try and curtail that. I imagine that would be the idea, but you're kind of in a spot here where it makes you look worse. The more that you say things and continue trying to convince us that everything's awesome, and the more that George Kliavkoff tries to convince people at Pac-12 basketball media days that they're going to catch up to the SEC and Big Ten financially, the more people just kind of roll their eyes and be like, okay, whatever. It is past time for statements of unity. This is not like alliance territory from August of 2021, right? Like, we're way beyond that. You are in a world of trouble at this point, and you just have to deliver results. There's nothing else you can do right now if you're the Pac-12 to win people over and make them believe that you're really going to get a good TV deal other than getting a good TV deal. Like, that is it. That's the option. And this song and dance and this show of making a statement like this is just getting crushed, as it should. And it's put up or shut up time right now for George Kliavkoff. And that's not to say that he can't still knock one out of the park, but it feels like he's down 0-2. It feels like this is an 0-2 count, and you got to deal with some breaking balls coming your way. You might need to foul a couple off here and try to just stay alive before getting your pitch to hit. Like, that feels to me like where the Pac-12 and Kliavkoff are at right now. And this statement is not going to help them at all. As a Big 12 fan, pretty refreshing, quite honestly, pretty refreshing to look at this and be like, the Big 12 used to be the league that was always on its heels based on some report or some story out there about Texas running everybody over in the boardroom and people being unhappy, Nebraska being unhappy, and this school flirting with the Big Ten or this school flirting with whoever. That used to be the Big 12's life. We're not living that life anymore. That is now the Pac-12's life. The Pac-12 has embodied that, where they're having to fight a report that comes out where there's a little bit of infighting leaking out there, and they're the ones having to be reactionary and then getting dunked on by the public when they see what the reaction is from the league. The roles have reversed there. The roles have reversed. The Big 12 is no longer in that position. And I think it's one of those things that should just make you appreciate Brett Yormark that much more. To look at this statement, how it's being received, and just the way things are going right now for the Pac-12, you better appreciate the hell out of one Brett Yormark and what it is he's doing and how he's handling it. So I'm with you on here. Cheers to that, my friend. Brian, what's up, Brian? Brian, thank you for being here. I appreciate your support, my friend. Brian says, although it would be a fun league to add some Pac-12 schools, I just know, I just don't. I'm assuming this. I just don't know if I want more obstacles to a Big 12 title. Wreck 'em. Yeah, Brian, I get that. I'll look. I'd be lying if I said like if I'm putting on my K-State fan hat here that I've thought through those scenarios. Like, okay, for instance, this year, I mean, K-State's the defending champs, and I'm trying to think like, all right, how good are the odds that K-State can repeat? And I'm like, well, 14-team league, maybe muddies it up. Maybe it can make your schedule a little bit easier depending on the breaks. I think we won't totally know about all that until we get into it. But I have that thought, I mean, like, what does this mean for the competitive advantage of my school? But I just always try and approach these things, Brian, with the attitude of like, first things first, you got to survive. It's kind of like the hierarchy of needs. Like, I would love to have great friends. I would love to have an awesome relationship. I would love to feel valued and want, but that's like higher up on the hierarchy of needs, right? Down here is like food and water and oxygen. Like, I have to have that to breathe, and you have to have a thriving conference to survive. And you're in a real dog eat dog world where it's eat or be eaten, kill or be killed. And so if you can do something that knocks out the Pac-12, I do actually, I still definitely believe in this environment. That's going to be the best thing for the Big 12. And therefore, the best thing for your school, in this case, Texas Tech's long-term survival, is going to be picking off some Pac-12 schools and strengthening your league with more Power 5 universities and positioning yourself as kind of the best of the rest conference. That's going to be the best thing. And so, yes, you want conference championships. I totally get it. You want as much success as you can have for your individual team. First things first, you got to be able to eat. You got to be able to breathe. You got to be able to sleep, like those sorts of things before we start working our way up the hierarchy of needs here. So that would just be the only thing I say to you, even as someone who can admit that I've had the same sorts of thoughts along those lines, wanting my team to continue to thrive. KD, what's up, KD? Kevin Durant in the chat tonight. Hope things are going well in Arizona. Speaking of Arizona being the epicenter of the sports world right now, KD says, would the Big 12 have opted for an Amazon deal? Well, it's interesting. If you would have said when Brett Yormark was hired, this kind of like slick wheeler dealer, forward thinking sort of guy, I think some people probably would have speculated, hey, that'll be the guy to go more than half inventory on streaming, right? And really dip his toe into that streaming water more than anybody else. But I think Yormark also is just really smart and understood that the more valuable thing for the Big 12 was going to be continued exposure and stability to just go ahead and get a deal done with the two big boys that are already there. So no, I don't think there's really a world where they would have done at least what the Pac-12 is reportedly on the verge of doing, which would be putting over half of the inventory on Amazon. Now, if you're saying, would the Big 12 have done a game of the week on Amazon, which is another thing that I've seen talked about in these negotiations, like the Sports Business Journal has talked about this, that, a lot of times the Amazon deal is like they have Thursday Night Football, like game of the week. Like they may not want to take on the bulk of the inventory here, which will be interesting to see how those negotiations continue to play out. But they may have preferred more of like a game of the week sort of thing as opposed to taking a huge chunk of the inventory. And so maybe you could describe some scenario to me there where like Yormark is kind of, I said dipping the toe in the water earlier. This would really be dipping the toe instead of jumping more all in like the Pac-12 is. You're not doing a cannonball. You're just kind of dipping your toe in off the edge. That to me would be doing like a game of the week or something. And if they could have gotten a nice little chunk of money with that, start a relationship with Amazon, try to start marketing a little bit towards streaming and getting ahead of the future for all of that. I don't think that would have necessarily been a bad thing, but it was clearly not the priority for the Big 12. A league that just needed stability after all these years of instability, needed to get it done. And I think really needs the exposure. Like if you're the Big 12, you can't take the chance in this day and age of getting off of ESPN and Big Ten or ESPN and Fox. Yeah, see, that's how synonymous these two are right now, right? ESPN with the SEC and Fox with the Big Ten. But you got to be on the big boy networks. You want to continue to get promotion from them. ESPN, if they have your games, they're going to have the little promos during other games. You're still going to get a little bit of extra juice, a little bit extra punch, a little bit of extra exposure during those broadcasts. That was something clearly needed for the Big 12. So I think just different situations and different objectives. For the Pac-12, it was one, the Big 12 jumped in front of them in line because of Kliavkov kind of dragging his feet. But two, clearly their priority seemingly has been more this entire time, like just money, like sheer money. Can we get a dollar value that is higher than what the Big 12 is? Because they're playing kind of a reactionary game here to the Big 12, which I would again paint back to my original bigger picture point here, that's the Pac-12 is on the defensive, the Big 12 is more on the offensive these days. So interesting question, and I would not have been opposed to a little bit, but I don't think you ever were going to see a lot of it, like what the Pac-12 is doing. But thank you, Katie, and thank you for first time super chatter, first time dropping in with a donation there. So I appreciate that. Jamie, what's up, Jamie? Thank you for being here. I appreciate your support as always. Jamie says, congrats to KC. Glad the OU Texas drama is over. Oh, it just jumped ahead on me. Sorry. Glad the OU Texas drama is over. A lot of smoke out of the Pac-12. 80's unhappy. Your mark on the prowl. I smell fear. Would love a college football Big 12 SEC weekend challenge. Woo pig suey. Yeah, I smell fear too, Jamie. I honestly do. That statement really reeks of it today. That came out, and I'll read it again if you're just joining and missed the Pac-12 panic move statement that they put out. That was all the university presidents, et cetera, in a joint statement. I also would love a Big 12 SEC weekend as much as that. If that took care of your automatic Power 5 that you need every single year in scheduling, hey, I would do it. And frankly, for the Big 12 right now, you're already in a position where your conference champion, in all likelihood, 9 years out of 10 at the very least, is going to be in the expanded college football playoff. Probably wouldn't hurt to get a little bit of extra juice and give yourself a crack every year at some of those top schools in the SEC just to build up some resumes, right? Like that could be a way for you to help strengthen your reputation if that were to happen. Now, I think all this is going to start getting complex enough to the point where I doubt that you see anything like that happen. But the Big 12 and the SEC have been more kind of like-minded leagues that have worked together on things like that in the past, much like the basketball challenge that has been there for years. So if it could work out, I would be all for that. I would definitely be all for that. And yes, thank you. Congrats to my Chiefs. I live 2 blocks away from where the parade route is going to be on Wednesday. So your boy's going to be out at the championship parade on Wednesday. Very excited for that. Very excited for that. I missed the last parade because I was still in Manhattan. I was a couple hours away. But I did attend a Post Malone concert that night in downtown Kansas City, where people basically just filtered from the parade into the concert. And then Mahomes and Kelsey showed up and the place went bonkers. It was one of the coolest moments, I think, of my life. That was wild, like being in a sea of people just going nuts because Mahomes and Kelsey walked into a Post Malone concert. Then we saw a great Post Malone show. Good memories. So looking to recreate some of those coming up on Wednesday. I know that's why all of you guys are here to hear me gloat about the Chiefs, but it looks like Eric is. And thank you for the donation, Eric. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate your support of the channel. My guy Eric says, thank God for the Chiefs shutting up Eagles fans. Also, how about Oklahoma State winning 5 straight games and handing Iowa State their first home loss? Boy, that's a great point. Oklahoma State is on a heater right now in hoops, and I am not looking forward to, Eric, I can tell you right now, I am not at all, as a K-State fan, looking forward to that return trip to Stillwater later this year. No, boy, I want no part of Oklahoma State right now. They look pretty good, and Oklahoma State gave K-State a real push in the game earlier this year in Manhattan when K-State was actually playing well, which they are very much not at this moment. They are very much not. Congratulations to Texas Tech on that win on Saturday. Definitely deserved it, even though I didn't even think it was the greatest game the Tech's played this year. And K-State was just that bad, but the Tech definitely deserved to win. So congratulations to the Red Raiders for that game. Oklahoma State's playing great. I feel good for Mike Boynton. Mike Boynton's a guy that's really easy to root for. I like him a lot. Going back years at Big 12 Media Days that I covered, just struck me as a very down-to-earth guy. I really appreciated his approach, how approachable he was and friendly he was. So he kind of won me over in that regard. I feel bad for him that they got screwed out of that year of the NCAA tournament. Meanwhile, Kansas commits 5 level 1 violations and we can't get anything to happen to them. So they're for a lot of reasons. I am happy to see that for Oklahoma State because I want Mike Boynton to succeed. I really do. I like that guy a lot. So shout out to the Pokes, man. They deserve it. They've been playing some really, really good basketball and beating Iowa State in Ames. I mean, that that is a shocking result. Like Iowa State had been nails in Ames. K-State had been the only team to really give them a halfway close game when they've been playing there this year. So I did not expect that to happen at all. Big props there. And Eric, I don't have to deal with Eagles fans a whole lot. I don't know that I really personally even know an Eagles fan, maybe one that I can think of. So I have not had to deal with much of them being obnoxious or whatever. To me, it was more, the Chiefs win was more about bringing Mahomes to his rightful place, which it's just ridiculous how much he had been doubted throughout the year. People wanted to put Burrow or Allen or Herbert, whoever, ahead of him, but also just shutting up everybody who had picked against the Chiefs, which a lot of people had in the playoffs. I know people are mad at Travis Kelce saying, like, everybody doubted us. There were plenty of people who doubted. This was supposed to be a rebuilding year for the Chiefs after dumping Tyreek Hill. And, oh, by the way, they won the Super Bowl. So that's what it was about for me. It was about shutting up a lot of people, not necessarily Eagles fans. Jalen Hurts won my respect, too. Big 12 quarterbacks, man. Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes absolutely balling out on the biggest stage there. Cyclone Steve. What's up, Cyclone Steve? Cyclone Steve says, I'm told the Pac-12 won't split unless they get less than 20. Well, that would, if they get less than 20, I just don't see a world, Steve, where they get less than 20. I don't think that's realistic to talk about at all. I don't think they're in a great spot, but I would think like the floor for a Pac-12 TV deal would be like 25, 6, 7, maybe something like that. I think they're at the very least going to get that. But the problem will be then, I mean, if you're getting that, you're losing the overall money battle to the Big 12. You're clearly losing the exposure battle to the Big 12 and what you're getting there out of your deal. So it's still going to be a problem. So I guess if that's the case, I mean, if you really think you can get Oregon and Washington to sign a grant of rights at $26, $27 million a year, more power to you. And maybe that will calm things and it'll be okay. But I just know we're seeing enough chinks in the armor here that I think there is legitimate reason for concern there if you're a Pac-12 fan. And even beyond that, I'm trying to pull up the reply here. Someone replied to me with a statement that the Big East put out at one point in time. God, I've got 63 responses to this thing. You guys have been all over this Pac-12 statement. So I'll take a quick look, but no guarantees that I'm going to be able to find it here. But the point is, the old Big East put out a statement like this at one point in time, and then shortly thereafter, it wound up blowing up because teams started leaving. So that's kind of the feeling. Yeah, here you go. Big East Commissioner John Marinato emerged from a 3-hour meeting with officials from the league's football schools to say his members pledged to each other that they are committed to move forward together. But now it appears the Big East stands a good chance to survive for now. And this was dated September 21st, 2011. Big East. On July 1st, 2013, Pitt, Syracuse, and Notre Dame joined the ACC. Everybody else joined the Big East. So, yeah, you know, you're within 2 years of the ultimate demise of the Big East as soon as they made that statement. So that would not bode well for the Pac-12 if history is any indication there. It feels like the timeline on this would probably be truncated a little bit too naturally, just because things are moving faster in the realignment world now than they were even then when the ball got rolling in like 2010 with Nebraska and Mizzou and all that. Things are happening so fast right now with developments that are bigger in scale, I think, too, than what a lot of people had expected here in the last couple of years. So, yeah, if it's going to go down, I think it would go down even faster at that point. Robert, what's up, Robert? Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here, as always. Robert says, shout out to Zach Thomas in the Hall of Fame. He's the epitome of tech, a grinder. Despite being underestimated, undervalued, 5th-round pick, he became a Hall of Famer. All right, hey, wasn't expecting a Zach Thomas reference here today, but that was a guy I really liked when I was a kid. I really liked watching him play when I was a kid. That was like my first introduction, I think, to Texas Tech football. Was knowing about Zach Thomas back in the day. So shout out to Zach Thomas. He's not my favorite former Red Raider, though, in the NFL, as you can probably see right now. Christian, maybe did Zach Thomas get into the College Football Hall of Fame? That must be what it is. Let me double check that, Robert. Zach Thomas, college. No, in 2015. All right. Is it Big Boy Hall of Fame? Is that what's happening here? I may just be behind the. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Zach Thomas received Hall of Fame knock from Jimmy Johnson. I see that now from 4 days ago. All right. Hey, Robert, shout out to Zach Thomas getting in the Hall of Fame. As one of my favorite players when I was growing up and first getting into football, he certainly deserves that honor. So may he forever be enshrined in Canton because of that, for appealing to my sensibilities. Texas Tech's going to wind up with multiple Hall of Famers here, huh? Multiple NFL Hall of Famers. Christian, what's up, Christian? Christian says, congrats again on the Big 12 and Super Bowl. Pack press release was hilariously transparent. And MVHE3R says Tulane reached out to the Big 12 thoughts. Yeah, I did see that earlier today. I saw my guy, Robbie Triano. Shout out to Robbie, great producer on Big 12 Radio on Sirius XM. I saw him like, who is this guy and where does he get his info? I will again say, like, you gotta be careful. And I appreciate what MHV3ER, I don't know. I always feel like I'm saying it wrong. I appreciate what he does. It's very entertaining, and there have been things in there that are correct. I also think there are things in there that have been proven to be incorrect. So I always try to take it with a grain of salt. Basically, what he said was that Tulane had reached out to the Big 12 and told the Big 12, "Hey, we've been contacted by the Pac-12," and that the Big 12 was just kind of not really, it was not moving the needle a lot for the Big 12 to be in a rush to go out and get Tulane, which, they probably should not be out in a rush to go get Tulane. Nothing against Tulane at all. Again, they beat my squad at home, and they were a really good team this year. That's not something I would be super interested in here at this point. I think most people understand that. They're probably like in a tier 2 or tier 3 of sort of expansion options. But I would love trips to New Orleans, and I definitely respect Willie Fritz and their football program right now. I would just always say, like, I try to be careful with bringing a lot of that speculation even to this show. Not that this is some like shining light or beacon of journalistic integrity here. That's not really by nature what a talk show in a sports talk show is going to be these days. But I just don't, I try to be cautious. And so I'm going to be cautious with that. I say, read it, let it entertain you, maybe take a nugget or two, but just be careful with it. And so that's where I am at, Christian. But as far as the release, yes, you are correct. Hilariously transparent in that the Pac-12 is feeling the heat. They feel the pressure from everybody. They know they're under a lot of scrutiny. And they're trying to go about kind of squashing that in the wrong way, I would tell them, with the statement that was released earlier today. And let's get into more of that here. I'm going to read you the Wilner and Canzano responses to it. By the way, if you want to chime in, you want to get your voice heard, leave a question or comment for me in the chat box and click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. You donate, guarantees that it makes it on the chat. It will pin it up at the top for me, and is a way for you to control the content, make your voice heard, and support the work I'm doing to bring you Big 12 content. I could not do this without the support of all of you guys who do that, so I genuinely appreciate it. If you also could just give me one click, that's all I ask, just one click. Go like the video right now. That also really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. If you're watching after the fact, make sure and leave a comment. Whether you love me, hate me, agree, disagree, leave a comment. All that stuff helps me with the algorithm as well and drives those views up and makes this channel, in turn, a better place for you with more and better content. Here is what we got from the Pac-12 and John Wilner's response to it. Okay, so let me read you the statement one more time. It says the 10 Pac-12 universities look forward to consummating successful media rights deals in the very near future. Based upon positive conversations with multiple potential media partners over the last few weeks, we remain highly confident in our future growth and success as a conference and united in our commitment to one another. Boy, the vote of confidence there. Here is John Wilner. Wilner says the Pac-12 is seeking a media deal that would commence in the summer of 2024. ESPN and Amazon are involved in the negotiations, according to multiple industry sources, as is at least one other major media company. So I guess that's another piece of this. It says ESPN and Amazon are involved in the negotiations, as is at least one other major media company. So somebody else. There have been rumors of Apple. It seems like most of the reporting has said like Fox is pretty much out here. So I don't think that would be Fox, but that would be the insight I could give you as far as who the the other entity might be in this scenario. Wilner goes on, the conference is also considering expansion with SMU and San Diego State on the short list of candidates. Each of the 10 remaining presidents approved the statement. USC and UCLA, which are departing for the Big Ten, were not involved. Wilner says the public show of unity comes amid mounting criticism in the college sports media space over the lack of a media rights deal, with some reports speculating that the Pac-12 could fracture. That, I would imagine, a partial reference, at least, if not a full reference, to the Stuart Mandel story. Kliavkoff's pursuit of a media deal began in early July when he received permission from the Pac-12 Board of Directors to immediately begin negotiations. More than a football season later, there's no media deal, no decision on expansion, and no grant of rights agreement that would bind the schools together for the next contract cycle. Meanwhile, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark has secured a media contract that will generate approximately $31.7 million annually for each of his members. And late last week, following the announcement of a separation agreement with Texas and Oklahoma, Yormark told Sports Illustrated that he would begin to, quote, aggressively pursue expansion. He did not name names, but the comment was construed by some as a sign that Yormark hopes to lure the four corner schools into his league. All this comes as multiple media reports in recent weeks have suggested the Pac-12 is scrambling to generate interest in its football inventory. The statement released by the Pac-12 presidents was their first joint public comment on the media rights process since July. And that's it, my friends. That's the article. That is the article. We're reading a statement here. This is something that strikes me at the end of this. It says, all this comes as multiple media reports in recent weeks have suggested the Pac-12 is scrambling to generate interest in its football inventory. I feel like that's a spot where if the John Wilner of the past, when things were not looking quite this bleak or as pressure-packed as they are right now for the Pac-12, would do a little bit more pushing a narrative there. Like, hey, yeah, some reports have said that, but it's not really accurate because of X, or sources tell me that's not really true. There's really none of that, man. I mean, this is basically, the article is just a timeline of everything that's going on right now, and an admission that plenty of other reports are painting this in a more negative light than what had really been put out there by Wilner and Canzano for a lot of this process. Now, in a lot of cases, the truth lies in between, right? So probably not on the super Pac-12 propaganda machine side, and probably not on the super negative Big 12 Twitter side, but the truth probably somewhere more in between. And now we're seeing reporters that, again, have been leans to the Pac-12 before, reporting things that would indicate a little bit of trouble within the league. So the fact that we didn't get like a mounted Wilner defense here, to me, is telling. He is the most connected guy really in the Pac-12 when it comes to reporting there. So if there was something that they really wanted out there, if there was some big push, some big angle, we didn't really see it. We didn't really see it from Wilner. You go back to, we have examples of this where he's done this before. One of the biggest was the Big 12 Pac-12 merger story, when it was first reported by Pete Thamel from ESPN that it was the Big 12 that cut off those discussions of a Big 12 Pac-12 merger. Came back and we got John Wilner on the other side really saying like, hey, this has been something that's stuck in the craw of the Pac-12 for a while now. That is not how it went down according to them. We got the Pac-12 side of that story through John Wilner. Another example of that was George Kliavkoff's comments at Pac-12 Basketball Media Day saying, just a ridiculous, just an asinine statement. But when he said, hey, we're going to catch the Big Ten and the SEC eventually financially, even Wilner couldn't totally dress up that pig. He couldn't put enough lipstick on that pig, but he did say like, hey, I think here's the math and what he's trying to say. And he went through the UCLA piece of this where it's like that, they will lose money because of travel and this, and take this into account. And, did some a little bit of cooking the books almost. That probably implies more, I wouldn't say like wrongdoing, but just he tried to squint. He tried to squint for the commissioner and see what he was saying. And he even admitted like this still doesn't totally really add up, but I think this is where it's going. Point being, we got a little bit of a defense there, and we got a little bit of like a, hey, this is really where they're going with that. We're not getting that today. We are not getting that today from John Wilner. Now, how does this all finish? I did pull a little blurb from a different article that Wilner had where it says, approaching the finish line, any Pac-12 membership invitation to SMU seemingly is contingent on the school signing a media rights agreement. Everything runs on parallel tracks. It's entirely plausible Kliavkoff is much closer to resolving this saga than perhaps we realize. The final bids are in place or are about to be submitted. That those deals are contingent upon levels of game inventory that require 12 schools. Pac-12 presidents are open to expansion, likely with 2 new members and possibly with 4. And then sometime in the next few weeks, the conference will have a bevy of announcements to make. The hotline's unofficial deadline for resolution is in March. We aren't fully convinced the process will play out in that fashion, but it's one of several scenarios worthy of consideration. So that's pretty much the defense at this point. Like that's kind of the hidden, tucked away Pac-12 angle here, which, again, the veracity or it's not being pushed very loudly. That was like number 2 in a list of 7 points that were made in an article by Wilner, and it was not included in this latest article that was about the statement from today. So it's kind of a hush-hush statement here of defense. So when it's not being yelled and pushed and at a front page, that tells you one thing. And then 2, really all it is like, well, hey, we don't really know because Kliavkov has been secretive with this. We don't really know. Could happen tomorrow. Could happen in 3 months. We have no idea. I mean, that's basically it. That's basically the defense right now. And this is after Wilner did write a piece not that long ago saying like, hey, you better get this done now. Like they need to get it done sooner rather than later. So I think the reality has certainly set in to John Wilner. Maybe a little bit less so. To Canzano. But even he didn't really come out too terribly strongly in response to this. I'll read you from John Canzano here. Canzano says, the statement amounts to a curious public relations punch from the 10 conference stakeholders designed to combat some criticism and uncertainty unearthed last week by a variety of media outlets. He calls it a curious public relations punch. He said curious. Even John Canzano called the statement today curious. I think that's where you know that you've made a misstep here publicly if you're the Pac-12. John Canzano, who's been the biggest cheerleader and propaganda pusher of this conference, called it a curious move. You've got a little bit of work to do if that's the state that you're in right now. He does quote one Pac-12 source that says some of the media narrative on that is not accurate. Even that, we've moved from George is kicking ass this week to, well, some of that media narrative isn't accurate. Strong statement, like, oh, everything's great, George is awesome, to now like, well, hey, I mean, some of that was a little bit not fair. Yeah, things are a little different now, man. Things are a little different now in the Pac-12. Even the internal messages being sent anonymously sourced to John Canzano, the guy waving Pac-12 pom-poms, all of it is some of the media narrative on that is not accurate. Everything that we're seeing right now is leading you to believe that there are some problems here and that there is a lot of anxiousness in the Pac-12 right now as to where this is going. More from Canzano. Says the Pac-12 isn't just confident about future growth, folks. It wants you to know it's, quote, highly confident. The conference is not just having conversations, they're positive conversations. And the conference isn't just negotiating, it's united while doing so. Got all that? And then he says, now, will the Pac-12 just get a media rights deal done? I mean, for Canzano, that is pretty scathing commentary of the Pac-12 there. Like, that sounds like something we might say. Little mocking in the tone there of what the Pac-12 is putting out there right now. Canzano continues, Monday's statement was met with raised eyebrows. I found the release to be downright strange. Now we've gone from curious to downright strange. Says it was the first joint statement from Pac-12 members since last July. Commissioner George Kliavkov spoke at Football Media Day in Los Angeles later that same month. He's popped up a couple of times since, including a podcast interview he did with myself and John Wilner. Last week, the Pac-12 commissioner visited SMU's home basketball game, presumably to explore expansion. A few Pac-12 sources I spoke with were surprised Kliavkov went through with the visit after it was publicly reported. It must have been important to the overall mission. That I completely agree with him on that, because that was not the greatest PR move in the world either. The fact that they had people knowing about the visit and then publicizing it, finding pictures of him up in the suite at the basketball game. And I say it's not great because it just, publicly people were kind of like, all right, well, that's the position you're in, Pac-12. Like you're chasing down SMU. And nothing against SMU, but I think that's kind of how the general public at large views it. Like, really? That's where we're going with this right now. And so if you're going to go through with it, even after you know that it's leaked and people may crush you for it a little bit, it's because, hey, we've got to get this done. Like, for the sake of the TV rights deal, which is the one thing that, as I told you at the beginning of the show, is the one thing that could truly shut some people up and make all this speculation stop. It tells you that it's probably a must for what's going on with the media rights deal. If Kliavkov is going to have to go through, even if his visit has been made fairly public there, because so much of this, think about the Texas-Oklahoma deal, folks, like, it happens behind closed doors. You don't know about it. Bob Bowlesby, a week before finding out about Texas and Oklahoma, week before, went on a podium at Big 12 Media Days and said, I don't think realignment's coming anytime soon. Everything's going to be fine. That's how quickly it happens, one. And two, how much it happens behind closed doors, and people actually do a pretty good job in a lot of cases of keeping tight lips on this until it's ready enough to go. And even with Texas and OU, I mean, again, the only reason we found out is because of salty Texas A&M leaking it to a reporter. That's it. So it tells you something. It tells you something if he's willing to go through with it being that public. Canzano says, I've had a good time flipping over rocks, back channeling, and exploring the underbelly of things since last summer. But I'd like to get back to talking about football and basketball if everyone else is good with that. That can't happen until the Pac-12 cuts a media deal. Also, until the CEO group decides how many schools it wants to add. What does the Pac-12 want to be in 2024 and beyond? A 10-team conference, 12 or 14? Does it make sure to capture geography that extends into Texas? How about Louisiana? Great question that he raises here. Does the Pac-12 look small time or opportunistic if it grabs SMU, San Diego State, UNLV, and one other school? On its head, I got to be honest, that sounds kind of small time. That to me, that doesn't sound anywhere even near the group that the Big 12 just added. BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, UCF. So the Big 12 fortunate again to go out and jump and grab the teams that they did when the Pac-12 still thought they had USC and UCLA and didn't need to do that. You got the four best expansion candidates that were out there. Now the Pac-12's left to kind of go down a tier. San Diego State is the only school out of that group that is on the same level, or at least close to the same level as the four that the Big 12 added. Here's Canzano's prediction, though. I know you've all been waiting for it. He says, my predictions based on sourced conversations. The Pac-12 will soon cut a media deal. It will likely expand by 2 members. Oregon and Washington aren't going anywhere. Neither of the 4 corner schools. Then we'll all move on to talking about the next college football season. This is interesting here at the end. He says, over the weekend, I reached out to an involved source at one of the 4 corner schools. I asked that person if he or she wanted to make a public statement and address the rumors of Pac-12 instability. Was the conference really threatening to unravel, or members antsy? Certainly the ongoing uncertainty is unsettling for fans. And the source said, quote, invest your energy elsewhere. And he closes by saying, I'd love to, just as soon as a deal gets done. Overall tone of that thing, man, I mean, that's fairly critical of the Pac-12 for John Canzano. That really is. And what do we make of that quote there at the end? Invest your energy elsewhere. I mean, I'd imagine that the insinuation with that is invest your energy elsewhere because it's not going to be a big deal. We're not going to dissolve, whatever. We're going to figure this out and get it done. But it also is not like a strong public statement about this. It also was not George is kicking ass this week. We're not getting that anymore out of these sources. And the way Canzano framed it up there, like he was lobbing a softball. He's lobbing a softball. Hey, look, there are all these rumors about instability. Now it's hit The Athletic, this report. That's a legitimate news outlet that has this. It's not just, John Kurtz's YouTube channel out here speculating about this. What statement do you want to make to publicly push back to this? And the statement was just like, you should invest your energy elsewhere. That was a chance to try and knock it out of the park and give a really big public statement or public show of support to George Kliavkov, and it was not there. The tone of these things, even from Canzano, has really changed. People are very antsy. I think it's safe to say very antsy within the Pac-12 right now about what is going on. All right, I've got maybe 5 minutes or so here, so it's like a 5-minute warning. If you want to get something in on the chat tonight, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you get in and make your voice heard tonight, and also a way to support the channel and support me bringing you Big 12 content on a week in, week out basis. Genuinely appreciate all of you guys who do that. Another reminder, please like the video. Just 1 click, totally free. Really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm if you can do that. Leave a comment on the video after the fact. You can also donate on Venmo. It's John-Kurtz-4 if you would like to do that as well. Got a couple of donations here to get to before we head out here. Robert. What's up, Robert? Appreciate you again, Robert. Robert says, gotta go, but have to say it was holding. Get over it, Eagles. Go Chiefs, go Mahomes, go Tech, and beat Texas. Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Very refreshing. It absolutely was holding. It kept Juju Smith-Schuster from busting wide open into the end zone. Bradbury admitted after the game as much that it was holding. And yet we still have people whining and complaining about it. There are so many dumb arguments about it. Like, oh, you can't call it in that spot in that game. What happens? I saw Kurt Warner make this point. What happens if you have a false start, like a guy just barely flinches? But, hey, just don't call that in that spot in that game. No, you call it because it's a penalty and it happened. Like, he held Juju Smith-Schuster, who would have had a step on him, rolling into the end zone there in a half where Patrick Mahomes' only incompletion was a throwaway out of the back of the end zone. Spare me with that not mattering at that point in time. It obviously did. If the idea here is people are upset that a Super Bowl that was that great ended that way, I can understand that, but that doesn't make it incorrect. Same with Joseph Osai and the Bengals Chiefs thing. Does not make it incorrect just because you're upset with the outcome. Truly, a lot of this is about the world that we live in right now. Nobody ever wanting to accept a loss or something going a different way. Like that's sort of the whole problem that we're seeing seep in here to Twitter when something like this happens. But yeah, very, very stupid. Very stupid. It was definitely a hold. So I appreciate that, Robert. Appreciate that. R Web, what's up, R Web? R Web, love to see you here. Thank you for popping in. R Web says, I sell ice in the winter. I sell fire in hell. I'm a hustler. I'll sell water to a whale. And I believe you actually missed a baby in there, R Web. I believe it's I'm a hustler, baby. I'll sell water to a whale. Because that is one of my favorite Jay-Z songs. Love that. But obviously a quote attributed to B. Izzo, Brett Yormark, our fearless leader, well-respected, well-regarded here on this channel. R Web's got another one for us. R Web's got more bars, guys. We're closing out with some R Web bars here. R Web says, flyer than a piece of paper bearing my name, got the hottest league in the game wearing my chain. Okay, that's good. Instead of the hottest chick in the game wearing my chain, he's got the hottest league in the game wearing my chain. Now, here's a reference that, maybe 10% of you will understand, but R Web, I hope if he does have the hottest league in the game wearing his chain, that we don't at some point have to have a Big 12 Lemonade album come out here because Jay-Z has a little infidelity going on here. All right. If you guys can follow all that, you got to be a little bit into the culture, as the kids would say, to get that one. But I love it, R Web. Love the references there. Oh, one final one. R Web. Thank you once again. R Web, allow me to reintroduce myself. B-Hova. B-Hova. All right. B-Hova is good. I kind of like that better than B-Izzo, actually. B-Hova. But it definitely works. We saw Jay-Z at the Super Bowl last night. Could Yormark? Yeah, he was probably busy. Probably a little busy working. Let's say, could we get Yormark appearance at the Super Bowl? Wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me as many connections as that guy has. Just flash him up there. Oh, hey, there's, Paul McCartney and now Brett Yormark. Would have been awesome. Rob, what's up, Rob? Oh, sorry, hopped in front of me there. Oh, boy. All right, Rob. Listen, Kansas fans, I'm just reading what Rob says here, okay? You guys know the rules. I'm reading what the man has said. Rob says, poverty program KU just stuck the Kansas taxpayers for $50 million to upgrade their stadium. K-State pays its own way while KU bills us for their incompetence. Is that official now? Is that like publicly out there? Because I've heard the behind the scenes stuff about that basically what Kansas is trying to do here to get their new football stadium funded, which they've tried to do before. Didn't happen. Announced a bunch of plans for it. Didn't happen. Couldn't get the funding. Lance Leipold actually had it put in his contract that if ground is not broken by a certain date on stadium renovations coming up here, that the contract is void. So it's a pretty important deal here that Kansas gets this paid for. They have always kind of been a disaster with managing their money. They will certainly tout the endowment that they have and how high it is, but when it comes to athletics funding, they've been a disaster financially for a long time. K-State very much has not been. You are correct about that, Rob. I guess my take on this would be, yes, it is frustrating as a K-State fan with an athletics department that has been so fiscally responsible over all these years doing it, to see that Kansas is going to, they will try to tout this as a multi-use facility, not just a football stadium. And there's other stuff going on, like the whole A lot of places have gone that route, multi-use things like entertainment district, and say that it's obviously not just going to be for football. So therefore we can get state funding for this. That's been the angle that I've been hearing about Kansas trying to play for a long time. As frustrating as it is, Rob, there is an element here of don't hate the player, hate the game. They figured it out. I think Travis Goff is a pretty smart guy. And I think he knows, hey, we've had all sorts of problems getting people to invest enough money in football. Even here after we finally had a decent year, I'm going to need to do whatever I can. And if I can save $50 million by pitching it to the state that way, I got to just kind of throw up my hands and be like, touche. If you can do it, do it. I think we all would if we were in the same sort of position there. And maybe it will influence K-State on down the line to think of something like that they could do that as well. So that would be my response. I'm with you. I get the frustration. I definitely do. And for a school, in particular, for a school that will just thumb its nose and look down at the school on down I-70 and the perception as, KU with the big proud med school and the massive endowment and just a bunch of farmers out there in Manhattan. Yeah, let's look at that and be like, hey, how about farmers that actually have really nice things, do a much better job of managing their athletic department as a whole, in particular the financials, and you're having to go leech off of the state. Yes, I'm with you on that. I saw someone say R. Webb in his bag tonight. That was Christian. Yes, shout out to Christian. I caught that scrolling down. That was good. Christian, R. Webb was definitely in his bag tonight. Shout out to R. Webb. Daniel, what's up, Daniel? This will be a great one to close on here. Daniel, I sincerely appreciate your support as always, my friend. Thank you for being here. Thank you for dropping in your comment. The 3-time Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. That is correct. Way to go, KC. Love the jersey, John. Thank you. Really, it's only the third time I've worn this. And funny story, I won this jersey. I also have to give a shout out here to my guy, Mason Voth, who used to host a radio show with me. 2018, first year Pat Mahomes becomes a starter. 1 week in, I watched that first game, and I was like, this guy is it. This is going to be great. And we made a bet on air that I bet that the Chiefs would make the AFC Championship game. The stakes were, he was a Dallas fan. I was going to have to buy him, I believe, a Dak jersey. If that did not happen, and if it did, he had to buy me a Mahomes jersey, and lo and behold, Mahomes jersey was purchased. Daniel says, go Cats, go Royals and Omaha, go Sporting and Union Omaha, go Current and go Monarchs. Man, you hit them all. You hit them all there. A lot of KC and Omaha pride there from Daniel. Love it, Daniel. Appreciate it, my friend. Excited for the parade coming up on Wednesday. I say it a lot. Every time I do a radio interview on in Lubbock, I always say, thank you to the great people of Lubbock, Texas for providing me with the gift that is Patrick Mahomes. And I will say it one more time. Lubbock, Texas, Texas Tech, Cliff Kingsbury. Thank you for bestowing Patrick Mahomes onto the great people of Kansas City. And enjoy watching it for another 15 years or so. 15 more years. That sound good? Rest of the NFL? Sounds pretty good to me. It's been a fun chat tonight, guys. Appreciate you all. I know I mentioned in the beginning the Barry Switzer comments. I'm just going to pop off right after this and record a little video about Barry Switzer's comments on Oklahoma to the SEC that I think you will find very interesting. I'm sure those comments went over super well in Norman. I will discuss that and get a video out to you. Should be tomorrow morning on that. So that's the plan. We'll see a live show Wednesday or Thursday. Still kind of trying to figure out what I think will work best on that. So just stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you click the bell so it gives you an alert when it is that I'm going live. Hit me up on Twitter at JL Kurtz. Try to be pretty responsive in the DMs there. You can donate to the channel, John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. If you'd like to support the channel as well, that is always much appreciated. Like the video, leave a comment. Even if you hate me, whatever it might be, comments. Great way to help out the channel as well. And Justin getting in the last word here. Justin, my friend, thank you. Shout out to UCF. Justin getting in here at the gun says, I'm here in Japan and it's noon. If you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you. UCF sucks. Hey, that's Justin's words, all right? UCF Twitter Mafia, I don't need you coming after me. I saw what you already did to Iowa State. I saw you guys just get all the way after Iowa State. That's Justin, but Justin got it in there. So kudos to Justin for doing that. He's really good. Justin's really good at gaming the system like that at the end, getting the shot off at the buzzer. But, oh, Michael getting in here too. Michael says, shooting my shot, hashtag go Cougs. All right, there's a BYU shout out at the end here. Everybody rushing to beat the buzzer. I love it. You know, we're getting close to March Madness time. That is definitely the season for buzzer beaters. Appreciate you all sincerely. Thank you for being here. Fun chat tonight. Lots to talk about. Lots going on. I'll keep you guys updated. Enjoy the rest of your Monday nights, and I will talk to you soon.